Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. And let's begin with US-China relations. US-based The Wall Street Journal reports that President-elect Donald Trump has picked Congressman Mike Waltz to be his national security advisor, a decision which suggests a strong hawkish approach towards China in both trade and national security fronts for the coming second Trump administration. Congressman Waltz, a Green Beret veteran who served in Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Africa, has been a member of the Select Committee on the strategic competition between the US and the Chinese Communist Party. The National Security Advisor is a highly influential post appointed by the president that doesn't require Senate confirmation. The job entails coordinating among all the top national security agencies, briefing the president, and executing his policies. Waltz has made his strategic outlook very clear. In an interview with US-based Fox News last year, he expressed, quote, "We need to tell the country and explain to the country that we are in a new Cold War with China. We don't want to be, but they certainly are with us. And they're using every element of national power, diplomatic, informational, military, economic, and espionage to replace us as a global leader, as the world leader, which is their stated aim." End quote. Then, co-writing in the UK-based The Economist earlier this month, Waltz expressed, quote, "The next president should act urgently to bring the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East to a swift conclusion, and finally focus strategic attention where it should be, countering the greater threat from the Chinese Communist Party. With stability restored in Europe and the Middle East, America would finally be able to prioritize China. A new administration should increase defense spending and revitalize the defense industrial base to make sure its armed forces are clearly capable of denying a Chinese attack on Taiwan." End quote. These would represent ground-shifting geopolitical moves if implemented. He adds, quote, "With Washington preoccupied in a two-front war, China is opening a third front, engaging in almost daily standoffs with American allies and partners such as Taiwan and the Philippines." End quote. We will move on to this in part 3 of today's video. It is also being reported that Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is in the final lineup for Secretary of State. Rubio has also been very hawkish on China. With Waltz, Rubio, and Lighthizer in trade, we are seeing the formation of a very strong policy agenda against China. Meanwhile, UK-based Reuters reports that the US government sent TSMC an is-informed letter telling the Taiwan semiconductor maker to stop shipments of 7-nanometer or more advanced designs designed for China that power AI accelerator and graphics processing units. The Commerce Department communication allows the US to bypass lengthy rule-writing processes to quickly impose new licensing requirements on specific companies. Then, UK-based The Financial Times reports, citing 3 unnamed sources, that TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, told Chinese clients it would no longer manufacture AI chips of advanced process nodes of 7 nanometers or smaller from Monday, that is yesterday. People familiar with TSMC's move said its decision was driven by a combination of the need to improve internal controls in the wake of an ongoing probe and the next wave of US export controls on chip supplies to China expected before US President Joe Biden leaves office. Next up, we move to the Chinese economy, but just quickly, if you're enjoying or getting some value from today's video, don't forget to hit the like button. Sharing and subscribing is also a tremendous help if you know someone who would enjoy this sort of content, and if you think you would watch another one of these episodes going forward. Hit the bell notification button and you'll be on top of these updates as they're released. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are also in the description for those who want to help keep the channel financially sustainable. Thank you so much. Now that it has been several days, let's examine the market and analyst reactions to the 10 trillion yuan, $1.4 trillion US package announced on Friday evening. Of this, 6 trillion yuan will be added to special purpose bond quotas for local authorities to issue from 2024 through 2026, averaging 2 trillion yuan per year. In addition, the central government has allowed local authorities to use another 800 billion yuan of proceeds from the new SPBs every year, starting this year, to deal with hidden debt. This 5-year initiative will amount to 4 trillion yuan. So this is where the 10 trillion yuan will be going. The government said that China's local governments had 14.3 trillion yuan of outstanding hidden debt by the end of 2023. However, the IMF has put this hidden debt as high as 60 trillion yuan. Beijing hopes that the debt swap initiatives could save local governments around 600 billion yuan in interest expenses over 5 years, redirecting resources originally intended for debt repayment towards economic development and public welfare. While this package should stabilize the economy for now, so far little has been done to address the growing deflationary pressure facing the country, as well as coming trade pressure from the EU and especially the US under a Trump administration. Markets were not impressed with the package either. In trading yesterday, Hong Kong stocks fell. Mainland Chinese equities had climbed over the past week with the expectations of more details on Beijing's stimulus plan following a monetary policy blitz at the end of September. But investors were disappointed by the lack of measures targeting consumption. Jason Lui, head of Asia-Pacific Equities and Derivatives Strategy at BNP Paribas, expressed in a note, quote, "Investors are unwinding bullish bets as they feel the major event is over and they are a bit let down," end quote. Analysts at Nomura similarly expressed in a note yesterday, quote, "With perceived emphasis on stabilization rather than stimulus and no measures to facilitate bank recapitalization and or boost consumption, we think this will come as a disappointment for stock investors," end quote. With the analyst then making an interesting popular rock reference, quote, "Constant delays and unwhelming stimulus might remind some investors of Green Day's Boulevard of Broken Dreams, a song that echoes the feeling of repeated disappointments," end quote. In a Substack post, Robert Wu, CEO of Big One Lab, unpacked why the markets are so underwhelmed with the 10 trillion yuan package. He lists 4 major reasons. 1, none of the programs flow directly to residents, so its impact on consumption is more indirect. 2, during the process of resolving hidden debt, policymakers are still adhering to the principle of whoever's child it is should carry it. This is the idea that if debt belongs to local governments, then local governments should carry it, as opposed to, say, the central government coming in and taking these burdens off local balance sheets onto central government balance sheets, indicating that policymakers' stances have not changed significantly. 3, some people are worried that the central government has underestimated the scale of the hidden debt, while most of the estimates put total hidden debt levels at between 50 to 60 trillion. The centre is only recognizing 14.3 trillion yuan. We just covered this. And 4, there was also still lingering unrealistic expectations that the National People's Congress Standing Committee would announce a big bang bazooka to the tune of 10 or even 12 trillion US dollars, encompassing everything from debt swaps, real estate buybacks, and direct-to-consumer cash handouts. Of course, this did not happen. Next up, and finally for today, we move to one of the most geopolitically dangerous regions in the world. Over the weekend, Philippines President Marcos signed the Philippine Maritime Zones Act and the Philippine Sea Lanes Act live on national TV. The laws further cement Manila's rejection of China's claims to virtually the entire sea passage and stipulate jail terms and stiff fines for violators. Marcos expressed at the ceremony, quote, "These signal our resolve to protect our maritime resources, preserve our rich biodiversity, and ensure that our waters remain a source of life and livelihood for all Filipinos," end quote. It is unclear how the Philippines could enforce the laws without US support, given China's increasingly aggressive actions to push its claims. Of course, Beijing would say it is simply defending its own territory, and that the Philippines and ally US are the ones being aggressive. On Sunday, Beijing called in the Philippines ambassador and used the laws as a pretext to release baselines of territorial sea adjacent to Scarborough Shore. State media also engaged in another narrative blitz. Party mouthpiece The People's Daily, for example, wrote yesterday, quote, "The Philippines' 2 laws are outright bad laws that will inevitably complicate the situation in the South China Sea. The evil of the bad laws lies in their impact on the freedom and safety of navigation in the South China Sea, threatening regional peace and stability," End quote. Meanwhile, UK-based The Financial Times reports that the Philippines wants to buy Typhoon mid-range capability MRC missile launchers. Defense Secretary Theodoro said in an interview with the outlet that his country was looking at getting mid-range capability launchers, which the US brought to the Philippines in April of this year for bilateral military exercises, expressing, quote, "We do intend to acquire capabilities of such sort. We will not compromise with our right to acquire any such kind of capabilities in the future within our territory." End quote. The launcher has remained in the Philippines since the exercises in April. Beijing has denounced both the initial deployment and its extension as, quote, "provocative and destabilizing." End quote. A land-based and ground-launched system, the Typhoon is capable of firing both the Tomahawk land attack missile and the Standard Missile 6 SM-6 with the range of between 240 kilometers, 150 miles, and 2,500 kilometers, 1,550 miles. This means that the weapons system currently has southern Chinese military bases within its range, as well as the Taiwan Straits, the South China Sea, and portions of the Western Pacific. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a good Tuesday. There will likely not be an episode tomorrow. On Wednesday, we'll have a break to hopefully reduce viewer fatigue. So if I don't see you on Wednesday, I will see you on Thursday.